very warm welcome to the Media Talk series with me, Adebisi Adetunji. This is another episode, and I'm bringing your way another media professional doing amazing things. You know, over here, we try to inspire, motivate, challenge each other as practitioners to do better for ourselves. And I always say you need to evolve, modify, and grow if you must remain relevant in the industry. And this is just all about peer learning, networking, acquiring information and knowledge about what we can do better as media professionals. Whether you are a presenter, a producer, you are behind the camera, you are a studio sound engineer, you are in the marketing department, because media cuts across a lot. On this platform, you get to learn a lot that you can apply to your personal, professional life. I have with me on this episode a very dear sister doing amazing things. I'm following her journey and I'm so excited about all that she's doing, how she's evolving, and how she's not taking it easy at all. She's taking it a top notch. Her name is Titi Kushimo, better known as Titi Kush. She is a published author, event host, voiceover artist, poet, and women leadership enthusiast. Her personality, presence, and style combine to leave an enjoyable impression on diverse audience. She is the author of Not a Perfect Story. I have read that book, by the way, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. And my children took it off the shelf. I don't know where they've hidden it, but they also loved the book as well. Her book, Not a Perfect Story, the non-fiction series, tells a witty account of what it means to come of age as a young lady in the global south. Titi Kush holds a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's degree in peace, security, and humanitarian studies. And she also has a certificate in gender and development from the Policy Innovation Center. Titi is very passionate about driving economic inclusion and development through Afro consciousness, which prompted her to establish Semirela, an African-based storytelling and entrepreneurship outfit. Semirela staged the first Afro literacy fashion concert in Nigeria, a creative fusion of arts, literature, and fashion aimed at promoting peace and driving social change. Titi Kush is a certified project manager from the Global Institute of Project Management and an associate member of the Society for Peace Studies and Practice. Make welcome with me, Titi Kush.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here. I love your fashion style and way of doing things. I think I should start speaking some things from you. Thank you for coming.
You very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the show, Media Talks. We are so happy to have you here. Let's start with your journey. Tell us a bit about how your media journey started. Was it something you had always wanted to do?
Okay, so I'll go back, way back. I wanted to be a lawyer, of course, because I was very given to the arts. I used to read a lot, maybe because my parents were readers. They had a shelf full of books, so we always used to read a lot. And by the time I was 13, I had read so many books. I knew so many, figures. Like I'd read all Ben Carson's books, The Big Picture, Gifted Hands. I just knew, those kind of people. So I had big dreams right from when I was a child, but I wanted to be a lawyer. And then along the line, I found out that if you want to study law, you needed to have you needed to have a credit in mathematics in your WAEC. So you needed to have a mathematics and English credit. And I was very good with English. I was, a high flyer and stuff. But then when I wrote my WAEC, I did not do well in my mathematics. That was the only subject, my very first WAEC. That was the only subject that didn't come out well. So I looked at myself and I said, okay, what can I do? So I kept on writing WAEC. I wrote it 3 times before I finally got
You're
it.
not alone. You're not alone.
I wrote it 3 times, yes. So, and because of mathematics, trust me, it was just mathematics. And then along the line, I just, got weary and I said, okay, what other things am I gifted with? And then there was a time in church, I was still in teenage church then. We had a program in church, and then there was a part where somebody was supposed to come into the audience and talk about the event and then field questions from the audience, just like you're doing a live reporting, the way we do with news. So they just said, oh, Titi should do it. That was my first time ever of doing anything like that. And then I just grabbed the microphone and I started talking. I didn't even rehearse anything. And I started talking and I went into the audience and the applause was resounding. Everybody was clapping. I said, oh, wow. So I remember, I think it was in 2006, if I'm correct. And then a few people walked up to me and said, I think you should be a journalist. I think you do a very good job. But you know how people just say these things and you're like, okay, all right. But then when it was time for me to pick to write UME, I just looked for a very good course. I sounded good. I wanted to go to UI. So I felt that, okay, what do they call mass communication in UI? They said it was communication and language arts. So then I picked it and I wanted to be a journalist because I felt that, okay, I was doing good with this. And I also got to know that you can actually cross over. If you're in 100 level, you do a certain course, you can cross over to Faculty of Law. A couple of people did that. So I felt like, okay, let me just get into the university system. And so I filled in for communication and language arts. But then when the admission list was out, I didn't see my name, even though I passed in flying colors. I passed my UME, and I was like, okay, what's going on? And then I went to make inquiries, and I was told that my combination for UME was more of social science courses and not arts, so they couldn't fix me in the course that I picked. So I just said, okay, what can I do instead of losing that year and having to go write another exam? So I just picked a course in social sciences. So I did political science. That was how I did my first degree. But guess what? All through my undergrad, my 4 years in the university, a lot of people struggled to believe that I did not study communication and language arts. They were just so sure. Even when I run into people now, they'll be like, oh, CLA. I'm even tired of correcting them because I just like, okay, because I engaged myself in speaking activities. I was always speaking for the department, faculty level. There was even a popular debate that I used to hold. I went to UI. I used to hold in UI then. What's it called? Super Bowl. I was always year in year I was doing Super Bowl, although I didn't make it to the finals. But the speaking engagement made me very prominent when it comes to speaking in the university. And then I also took leadership roles. So it was just a no-brainer that I was going to end up in the media space, because even at the department, I was taking roles. If there was any event we wanted to do, I was the information minister. So I was going to be the host. So I was already doing those things. So by the time I finished the university and NYSC came, I was posted to serve in a secondary, I think it was a primary school. I can't remember if it was a secondary school, but it was a school. And then I already knew that I wanted to serve in a broadcast media outlet. So immediately I got my call-up letter. I just said, you know what? Thank you so much. I went to the school. I explained myself to the principal that this was what I wanted to do with my service here, because I needed that year to gather experience and also familiarize myself with the media space. So she understood and she said she was going to write a rejection letter for me, but I was on my own. I had to find a place for myself because NYSC had done the posting, but if I wasn't going there, then I had to find my way. So luckily, I found my way into the state broadcasting station. So I was able to audition. They did a short audition for me. And I think I was so passionate. They just felt that they had to take this girl because my passion was very tangible. You know,
I
when
can hear
sometimes
I can hear the passion in your voice.
yes, sometimes core members just want to stroll in and be like, let me just do this 1 year ago. But it was serious business for me. So I was absorbed into the broadcast, the OSBC, Ocean State Broadcasting Corporation. Yes. So throughout the year, I was working like I was a staff. I didn't even remember that I was a core member. I went to work on Sunday. I came to work on Saturday mornings for the newspaper review. So the head of department, let me call his name so I can give him his flowers, Mr. Olushola Ajiboye. I think he took a liking to my passion and he just always gave me responsibility. So I was on the reportorial team. I went out a lot with the report people that went to go out to report events. So I went for different events. I was able to travel across towns in Oshun, and it was such a beautiful experience for me. So by the time I finished my NYSC, of course, I felt like I had gained some experience, because when you work in a state, you have that experience, so you can attest to what I'm saying. Because of the thorough nature of the trainings they have, they're always very disciplined and very thorough. Yeah, that's the word, with the processes. So I already knew the nitty-gritty of broadcasting, reporting, news sourcing for news and all of that. So I left. I came back to Ibadan, but then it was not like I got a job immediately as in a broadcast station. I got a job first as a personal assistant, and then before I then now had the opportunity to work in radio.
I mean, how is it that we seem to share similar experience? I also wanted to study law as well, you know, and I ended up studying English language. I didn't get the law. I actually started out as a science student, and then I didn't. My science nest did not work. I failed math as well, and I wrote, WAEC a number of times before I finally discovered that art is what I should be doing. And then, of course, life took me into the media and communication space. Thank you for you're telling us your journey, the passion. I hear the passion in what you have said. Like, how many years did you actually practice in mainstream, like working in a station, a radio station or TV station? How many years did you actually practice before we come to talk about how you metamorphose into economic inclusion and development, the development space?
Okay, so backtrack. There were times when, as an undergraduate, there will be strike. You know how public universities, there will be prolonged strike. So I used to go to media houses then. I went to Space FM for some period where I was just volunteering, and then even Splash FM before I now came back to work there. So if I count all of those years, maybe like, and then when I got an actual job with Splash FM, maybe cumulatively, maybe like 4 or 5 years that I worked in mainstream media before I transitioned into the development space.
So that was quite early. I'm curious. People who want to spend a number of years, to stamp their name in the profession. Why did you quickly evolve out of mainstream in 4 or 5 years that you started practice into the development space? What informed that decision?
Okay, I think it's because even while I was in mainstream, the bulk of what I was doing was development. It was highly developmental. Okay, so I was gathering stories on human angle issues. At a point, I had the opportunity to work on a project that involved female genital mutilation, eradication of female genital mutilation in Southwest and some other states across the federation. So I think that already exposed me to some issues that we were dealing with in society. And I would be the one there were times I would go to UCH because I'm looking for maybe an oncologist. I just wanted to talk to an oncologist. There was a time I wanted to talk about IVF, in vitro fertilization, because I wanted to shed light on it. So I was the person looking for those kind of stories. So I was already getting the consciousness that beyond just speaking on the radio, just talking on radio, there were issues there were deep-rooted issues in our society. And I also got the opportunity to host a women's show, Leading Women, and I got to talk to a lot of women and different issues that they were experiencing. So I think that already got my consciousness high on the fact that there were issues in society that needed attention. And I felt that it was important for me, if I got the opportunity to move from just agenda setting to actually getting to the place where there is an opportunity for policy formulation, policy suggestion and formulation, I just wanted to take it. So I think that was what prompted me. So when I got the opportunity for development, I knew that this was an offshoot of the work that I was already doing within the media space. So I went into the development space with a consciousness. So yes, and even when I got into the development space, I was still doing the same things. It was still the same expression. It was just on a, let me say, a more defined and definite pedestal when I got into the development space. So it was the same things that I was doing within the media space. So I just felt, okay, this is an opportunity to metamorphose. Yeah. And I just took it. And I was also young. So there was an opportunity to, grow and move. I just,
And move. Yeah,
yeah.
You like to move, which
Yes.
will bring me to my next question shortly. So how exactly did you use your media skills in the development space where you worked?
Okay. So for instance, from the media, I already knew, just like the issues that I highlighted, I already knew some of the deep-rooted issues that we had. So I worked in a very peculiar development organization, which is Dawn Commission Development Agenda for Western Nigeria. And the major focus or the major objective, strategic objective of the organization is to help the Southwest region develop at, a pace where there can be regional development at a pace where all the states are getting that they're taking learnings from one another. So for Lagos, there's a certain thing that's working in Lagos. How can Ogun State take advantage of it as a matter of proximity? And then how can Oyo State also take advantage of that? How can Ekiti State, how can Ondo State, all of that. So that was the idea of the organization where I worked with. It was a let me say, Yoruba organization where the aim was to allow the region of the Southwest develop, because that was the idea before in the Awolowo days, where it was a Western arrangement, and we could see the impact of that arrangement even till now in you know structures such as the Cocoa House structure. They were offshoots of that. They would do our investment just to help the
Yeah,
Southwest to be able to develop and
yeah.
stand and set the pace like it used to. So that's the idea of the organization. But we had different pillars where we worked. And so coming from the media space, I already had an understanding of some of the things from the field, because most of our stakeholders are policymakers, most of our stakeholders are government agencies, even though we worked across different agencies like the media as well. So I, coming from the media, was able to also bring some perspective. For instance, we talked about reforms for the civil service. How, if the government wants to do anything, the government wants to implement any policy, it's going to use the civil service, right? So I was able to also bring my media expression into, for instance, how to interact, how to get information. If you want to gather a story from a particular stakeholder, I already knew how to, for instance, field questions, how to direct questions, how to
How to
facilitate.
engage,
Yes, how to
the
engage, the kind of
stakeholders.
language to use. Yeah, so
Okay.
that helped me to be able to bring that expertise that I already gained from the media into that. And then we used to have different meetings with different stakeholders drawn from across the NGOs, civil service, non-governmental organization, even the general public. So I was also able to bring in my own media experience in facilitating such conversations to ensure that we're able to arrive at, the objective that we're looking at. And then I was also able to learn, because for the media, we set agenda. We're like, this is what the government is supposed to be doing. This is what we're like the town criers, for media. This is what the
Yeah,
government is supposed to be
yeah.
doing. But coming into development space, I realized that it was important to harmonize objectives. It was important to take, different interests. I was able to understand the diversity of the stakeholders that exist. So it's not just about this is what is supposed to be done. I was able to also see that it's important to understand what has been done in this particular area, what needs to be done, and what needs to be done better, or what needs to be dropped, which were not things that jumped at me quickly from my experience in the media. For me, it was just, let's shed light on this issue. Let's talk about this issue. There's one bad road somewhere. Let's fix it. Let's talk
Now,
about it on radio.
you had to do
Yes,
stakeholders
exactly.
engagement. You have to
Stakeholder
listen to
engagement.
the audience. You are trying to solve their problem or
Exactly.
bring a solution, and that's how the development space works. Fantastic,
Yes.
and it is interesting to see how you had to tap into your media professional prowess and apply it into conversation facilitation of activities, bringing
Yeah.
in your perspective to decisions. Now let's come down to, you didn't stop there. You evolved into event hosting. In the media, we always tell ourselves we are communicators, and therefore we feel that we can MC, the MC ship spirit, as it were. So,
Mm.
and sometimes people don't really, just because you can communicate via the radio or the camera does not mean you are absolutely a good MC, a master of ceremony, or an event host. Now tell
Right.
us what led you to, just briefly, into what sparked your interest in event hosting, and share a bit of what anyone who wishes to, follow that path of hosting events, the part of doing a very good job of master of ceremony. What are the skills required? But first of all, let's talk about, how did you dovetail into that? What sparked your interest quickly? And then we come to that.
Okay. So what I didn't even wake up to say I wanted to do it. I think it just happened. I mentioned earlier that back in my undergraduate days, I was always the one doing all those. I think people just noticed maybe the way you express yourself when you're just being yourself. People can tell what your capacity is. And that's why I always say that it's important to just live out yourself, live out loud, live out your abilities, just be who you are. So I think that was what actually influenced it. People would call me, please help me to do this, please help me. Even down to, oh, my birthday is tomorrow, I want you to help me to MC. And I didn't even take it seriously. I was just helping my friends and doing something for my department, and all of that. So, and even when I got to work in the development sector, I also did a lot of that. So there's an event, my boss is saying, Titi, do this, go and, facilitate this, do this and that. So it was something that just came to me. I didn't wake up to say, oh, I'm going to be hosting events, or I went to Google how to start hosting events. So I think that was how I started, saying that, okay, this is actually something that I could do, because I feel that one of the reasons, especially for people who say that they don't know what they want to do with their lives and they're confused, I think one of the ways to find out what you're supposed to be doing is what people ask you to do for them. You might just think is nothing, but people keep asking you to do this and do that for them. That means they can see that you have that capacity to do it, because they could have gone to other people, right? So that was what led me into it. And I now found out that each time I did it, people were so happy, and like, oh, people will walk up to me and say, I would like to meet you, I would like to do this. I said, okay. So I think I need to take this thing more seriously and start to do it. I actually
More
have someone who told
seriously.
me, yes, someone who told me that this is what you should be doing. This is what you should be doing. I don't know what else you're doing, but this is what you should be doing. So I said, okay, because I also do other things. I have other expressions. And this was just always something that people will come to me and ask me to do for them. So I just said, okay, I think I need to take this more seriously and take it further. So I then started to learn. I have paid sessions that I also, got to do, so that
You
I
got
can,
trained. Okay,
yes, so that,
you registered for courses and training,
yes,
to train
yes,
to better
yes,
facilitate events. Nice, nice.
yes, I did that. Yes. So, and that was how I said, okay, I think I need to start professionalize this thing, but it's something that I have always done from way back.
So what you've been playing around with ended up becoming something that points to what you should be doing, your natural talent, your natural gifting. Now,
Yes.
I like the fact that you said it wasn't just about speaking, just because you have the gift of the gap or you can communicate, as we always say, as media professionals, does not mean you should not learn, take the
Yeah.
required courses. I love the fact that you went to get trained. So training is key to becoming an
Right.
expert in, even to achieving excellence in whatever you are doing. Now, based on your experience, and I see that event hosting is becoming a big thing. People are earning lots of money. There's somebody I
Yeah.
follow on LinkedIn, and I'm like, ha, this is just event hosting, and the person is going on international level. I think you also follow her as well. So
Yeah.
there is
I
there is
probably
lot
know
there
the
is a
person.
big, yeah, there's a big opportunity in event hosting. And so as media professionals or practitioners, beyond just emceeing or MC-ship, as I call it, you might want to, make, brand it and make it something more, meaningful, and something that carries an expertise. So
Yeah.
tell us, what are the skills one would need to be an event, a professional and an excellent event host?
Okay, I think the first thing, I'll speak generally and I'll speak for myself, because just as you said, there is now a proliferation of event hosts across the country.
Yeah.
So you then need something that would be unique to you. Just like in any profession, you need to be able to stand out. So, but before I get to that point, I think the first thing you need to do as an event host or master of ceremonies, there are different names. Compare, if the feminine version of compare is compare. So depending moderator, but the fact that you are driving the audience, you are hosting, like you are the one they're coming to meet. You're the one that would direct the course of events. That's why you have the agenda. Excuse me, you have the agenda with you. You understand what's coming next. You know each of the guests and all of that. Even sometimes the owners of the event, they might not know all those things. I've hosted events before where I got there. It was a political event, and I got there, and the chairperson of the committee that did the event did not even know what was next. He didn't
What
even
what,
have the
what they were
agenda.
supposed to be doing.
Yes, he didn't even have the agenda because he just thought, I mean, that's why we hired you. Just take care of it. So you can you have to see yourself as the master or the mistress indeed, because that's what it's called. So that's the first thing to know, that I must understand this event. And that's why we have different types of events hosts. We have wedding hosts, wedding MCs, we have social events, we have corporate events. There are different areas where you can specialize in, but as often as you do it, you find out which one is best for you. I always say, just try, just start out, and then as you do it, you know which one is your niche, because you have to have a niche. You can't just be doing everything. Now, having said that, you also need to work on your energy levels as the MC. Just as I said, that you're the one driving the occasion. And I'm not talking about energy as in being hippie and being, shouting and all of that. I think energy can be sensed. Your audience can sense the energy that you come in with. Even if you are the loudest or you are the most calm person in the room, they can sense the energy. And that energy is what you will use to drive the event. Okay, every time you always say that the MC has a lot of work to do, because the keynote speaker will only come up once. The resource person, if it's a corporate event, will only come up once or maybe twice, and then they ask questions and then they go to that seat. But you see, you the MC, you be there as often as possible.
As is required. Yeah.
Yes. So you better make it memorable for your audience. And that's why I just talk about the first thing for me is your energy levels. If your energy is right towards the event and towards the audience, you're going to have a smooth sail. It's going to be a wonderful event. But if the energy is missing and you're leaving your audience wondering, okay, what's going on, you're already creating a bias in their hearts towards you, and that might affect the turnout of the event. So yes, work on your energy levels. There are some events that need you to be very hyper, and there are some events that need moderate energy levels. For instance, if you're hosting a housewarming party, you might not be shouting and doing all that, because at that point people are in a gratitude mode. They're like reflecting on, the process it took to come up with the, funds to build their house, to
To
do all those
build
things.
the house in
Yes,
Nigeria.
they're just happy and they just don't want noise, just want to do their thing and just praise God and just leave. But if it's a wedding, you want to make all the noise because you have different interests, families, friends, the diversity in the audience. You need to match energy levels. And then if it's maybe like a corporate event as well, you must also know what you're supposed to say and what you're not supposed to say. I've hosted an event before, and somebody walked up to me in the audience and said, I like the fact that you know what to say and you know what not to say. So I looked at him, I said, okay, as you're preparing for your occasion, you're thinking about the audience. It's not about you as the MC. We always make the mistake of thinking, oh, it's me. No, it's about your audience. So whatever you're thinking or coming to say or do, you must have them in mind. So when you give that feedback, I said, okay, that's very, very good. And that's something that all MCs should take note of. It is not in all locations that you say certain things. For instance, let me give an example. If you are hosting a political event and you have members of the All Progressive Congress and you have members of the People's Democratic Party, you have to be sure that you're careful with words like obedience. Oh, you need to, because you can spark up
Yeah. Yeah.
unnecessary, you know, bias, because they might start to think that what are you trying to drive out. So
I
if
mean,
it's
or that
possible,
you are a member of the other
yes,
party.
so if possible, you should do away with words that would trigger any kind of negative reaction from the audience. Just as I said, it's about the audience. That's not the time to bring your idiosyncrasies and say, oh, this is who I am. Like I said, it's not about you, it's about the audience. And also, what I always say is that be prepared, have an opening line. In some occasions, you would have the opportunity to say your lines verbatim before you start. But in some occasions, you might not have that opportunity. But prepare for it, because you never can tell. As much as we have agendas and we have, program and everything sorted, sometimes you get to the event and you'll be surprised. So be ready for any kind of surprise. And that's why I always say that be flexible and be vast. As an event host, one of the things I have learned is that you have to learn about many things. And also, how you learn about many things is as much events as you get the opportunity to host, because you get to read, you get to research the audience, you get to research the topics before you get to that occasion. So that gives you an opportunity to have a vast knowledge across different fields. So as an MC as well, you need to be that, because you might get to an occasion where the next speaker is not coming up, and you cannot just ask your audience to wait for them and be looking. If it's a social
Yeah.
event, you can hide under music and say, oh, let's just have some cool music. But if it's not,
Yeah.
you have to say something and you have to make sense. And that's why it's important. I'll give you an instance. I hosted an event 2 weekends ago, and there was a part of the event where the audience was supposed to watch a video. And I saw it in the agenda, the title, the video. But I went to watch the video myself, because I just thought that why wouldn't I have an idea of what the audience is about to watch? Even though the organizers had the video and they were the ones, the media team will be the ones to play it. But I, as the MC, had to take it upon myself to watch the video. And guess what happened? By the time it was time to watch the video on the day of the occasion, you know how these things work. The media team, they were
Yeah.
technical issues. So I had to start talking and preparing the audience, for what they were about to watch. And that was
Watch.
because I had watched the video. So what if I hadn't watched the video? I would have and watching the video also made me go research certain things, that, oh, this is the case. So I was telling the audience and they were like, oh, really? They were also learning. So as the event MC, you also have to be prepared to also inform. Yes, I was going to say that, inform. No, don't just call. It's not just about calling the next speaker or calling the next day. You also have to be ready in case there's any that unforeseen circumstances like what I have just said. And then another thing is branding, which I was going to go into if we have more time. And because of the fact that there are so many people who do an excellent job at hosting
Of
events, you have
it.
to brand
Yeah. Yeah.
yourself in a way that, because you're, as an event host, you are also like a form of advertisement for that event. For instance, there are some people that
Yes.
Just because they are hosting an event, you can decide to show up. You can decide to say, if this person is the host, then I'm going to be at this event, just because you appreciate their brand, you've seen their growth, you've seen their work so far, and you're like, I want to be associated with this person. So even organizations and individuals, when they're choosing their MCs now, they're not just flippant about it. They're researching, they're looking at your Instagram, your LinkedIn. I once hosted a fair for Dangote PLC, and before I was allowed to do it, before I was accepted to do it, they asked for my LinkedIn, they asked for my Instagram, they asked for different.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So
Yes.
they checked you out on social media.
Yes, they did. They checked me out before. Yes,
Interesting.
and I even did this, a kind of mini interview before I was.
Interview.
Yes.
It's a serious matter.
Yes, it is. So branding is very important. What do you look like? It's not just, don't judge the book by its cover. I know who I am on social media. Whatever you are posting, don't just think you're just doing your own thing. You are advertising yourself, and what they see is what they will believe, because they probably haven't met you before. They will just say, send us your profile, send us this. And if you don't have any profile that matches what you're trying to attract, then they will just tell you, I will get back, and then you will just see the pictures of the event afterwards. So that's why branding is very important. And apart from your personal branding, also look into the brand of the organization you are working with, because you don't want to remain the small league forever. Look into the brands of the organizations you are about to work with. For instance, if you're asked to come work with let's say Glow, right? You must be very meticulous about, number one, the kind of words, the language that they use in their organization. Maybe go on their Instagram, on their website.
Research
Yes.
the organization.
Yes.
Research the you are the host. Research the convener of
Core
that
values.
event.
Yes. Research their core values, research what's important to them, because what's important to one organization might not be important to another organization. So you have to be ready to always make that switch, even down to what you're wearing is very important. So if you're hosting an event for maybe MTN, you don't show up wearing a green dress. What are you trying to say?
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you wear green, you are selling another brand.
Exactly. You don't show up wearing green. Those are the little things. They might not say it, but then by the time they post pictures and there's a green, obvious green outfit showing, and obviously you're going to be on stage, and then the camera, the videos will catch you as much as possible, and then you have green all over the place. And then when they are doing their assessment or postmortem for the event, somebody raises their hands and say, I think the MC, somebody was wearing, and no, it didn't portray the organization. And then by the next time, they are thinking about who else they can call instead of you. So, but then when you wear their brand color, it shows you're concerned about them. It shows you're taking the time.
It shows that you are aligning with their brand.
Yes. It's not just about you. So that's why now people place a lot of premium, because if I'm coming to host an event for you, that means that I'm going to be thinking about you. And so I'm going to invest in everything possible to make sure that I reflect you. So you're going to have to put that value on what I'm going to do.
Pay you what
yes,
your job
exactly,
is
and
for.
pay me. Yes. So as much as for instance, let me use myself as an example. As much as my fashion is defined, and I know you can tell that I'm very Afrocentric and all of that, there are some places where I'm completely corporate, and I just align with what they want. Yes, with what they want.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice.
So then I also wanted to talk about relationships. I know that it was very important for me. Relationships. Many times I think it cuts across all industries. I have also had to learn this, so it was important for me to put it out that, guys, learn how to build and maintain relationship with people, because you really never can tell where your name is being mentioned. Your name is mentioned in WhatsApp groups that you're not even in, and what people say about you will inform. Even if you're the best person, I said it, that there are so many people who are doing this thing now, but at the end of the day, the referrals that you get from people that people love and respect matters a lot. So if you're not getting enough referrals as much, then you need to work on your relationships. That's very key. So for instance, when you get a job from, I know people who, for instance, I always send a message or a mail to say it was a pleasure, thank you for hiring me, just to retain that relationship and let them know that I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been a part of your brand story, by hosting your event. So I'm making a big deal out of the relationship that we started. If it's people that I have known before, I don't take it for granted that they've asked me to come do this.
Yeah.
I still
Yes,
go ahead
absolutely.
to thank and appreciate the gesture. Some people will just be like, Shebi, I did my job, I did my work, and that was it, they paid me for it. But like the world is evolving in a place where, I mean, our social interactions are getting more closely knitted, and you really cannot afford to burn bridges. So I think it's very important. That's why you will see certain hosts for popular events, they keep coming back year in, year out, and you're wondering, is this the only person? But I think they've just built a bond with the person, or the person has been able to
Yes, there's a
maintain such a
relationship, there's
relationship
a
that,
connect.
yes, that they don't even see themselves detaching from it very anytime soon. So I think that's also very important. Then I also wanted to talk about what else. Yeah, I've talked about understanding your audience. I've talked about be flexible. I've talked about, okay, yes. So I also wanted to talk about cognitive factors, but especially for people who are just starting, there are so many things that you need to ensure, because hosting an event is an offshoot of public speaking. So as an event host, you need to be able to work on your public speaking skill, so that then that will now serve as a foundation for you to be able to host and carry on events. And there are so many things you need to deal with. I think number one is to understand yourself and know yourself, because there's no way you will bring an energy to the room that you're not familiar with. So you have to be able to understand. For me, sometimes if I have an event that if I'm hosting an event that I've not hosted before, I go as far as watching videos on that particular event type. You know, I watch videos, I look at the nuances, I look at the audience, I look at the MC, I look at how the event is being generally coordinated, so that when I get to that event, I already have a feel of that energy. I'm not trying to squeeze myself into it. I already settled into it. Because many times what people struggle with is to be able to settle in. They just want to go on stage and start talking, and people can tell when you are not settled, and it affects the energy of the audience. So I think it's important to understand those factors, understand yourself, and also work on building your audience, work on expanding your audience. So if you have hosted an event in maybe a 20 audience or 50 member audience, you can seek opportunities where you can take it to 100, you can take it to 150, so
Yeah,
that way you
that's
build.
growth.
Yes, and you also build confidence, because even the best of the best event hosts, they still struggle sometimes with their confidence. But because they've been able to get comfortable in such settings, it helps them to be able to manage it, and you cannot tell. I have had interactions because I watch. I'm still on the journey, and so I learn a lot. I listen to podcasts, I watch YouTube videos, I listen to interviews, and I still hear even the biggest of the biggest event hosts that we look up to talk about this issue. So I know that it's a recurring issue. So you have to keep on building yourself. You might have hosted an event or in a 1,000 capacity, and then you're called to host an event in a 10,000 capacity, or even as little as presenting an award in maybe a Grammy award level. And
Yeah,
you're used to hosting events and but you get to the Grammy stage and you're like, okay. So I think
this is
important also,
it.
yeah. So at every point, because we get the tendency of looking at others and saying these people are made. No, they are also still on the journey, just like everyone is on that journey. So I think for an event host, you need to build your audience. So even when I don't host events, when I go for events that I'm not hosting, I'm conscious of the fact that I might even speak at that event. I'm not just there to sit. I'm there to also say, if I get the opportunity to speak, what
Someone
am
may
I going
just
to
spot
say?
you and say, come
Yes,
and say it.
yes. Exactly. And if you are able to speak in that kind of audience, as even if it's as little as asking a question or corroborating what somebody else has said, if it's an audience that is larger than where you've normally been used to, that means you've broken that jinx for yourself. And when you have an event to host in a large audience of such a nature, you are not unfamiliar to it. So I think that's also important. And I was also going to talk about pricing.
Yes, pricing is very important. How do we price? How do we not underprice ourselves or overprice ourselves quickly?
Good. So there are different types and there are different levels and there are different stages for different stakeholders. So I will talk about what works for me. There are some stakeholders that you need to send them your rate card upfront, that this is because if you don't do that, they will not rate you. You know how we say you don't rate, they don't rate you.
So your
Because
packaging should have like
yes,
a rate
yes,
card like we have in the media. You actually have a rate card as an event host.
yes, I do. I have a
Interesting.
rate card.
Nice.
Yes,
Nice.
yes. So you have a rate card to send them upfront because they are going to present it to their committee or whatever. But there are some stakeholders that you talk to, that you have a conversation with, and you say, okay, what can you afford because of the relationship that you have? But there are some stakeholders too that they you don't even discuss those kind of things with them. They just know that if they are hiring this person, this is what is normal to do. I'm talking from my experience. So it's not
Yeah.
that every stakeholder you send your
You
rate
have
card,
to.
everything. No, there are some stakeholders, and that's why I talked about the relationship. And you would also get to the point where your worth, everybody or your stakeholders before they approach you, they know. It's just like music. I think that event hosting is getting to that point as well now. Like music, you know
Yeah.
what it is when you want to hire an A list. You know what it is when you want to hire a B list. You know what it is. So
Yes.
you know all those categories. So you also know where you are. So you don't underprice yourself, just as you said. And also when you look at the what it takes for you to show up, you're going to for a woman. I think it's even more challenging for women, female hosts, because you're going to look at your makeup.
Going to talk about your
You're going to look at
makeup,
yes, you're
your
going to look at your
dress, your
hair.
shoes, your bag.
Exactly.
It's a whole
Your
lot.
dress. A man can always wear his black suit and change the shirt inside.
Exactly. And shiny shoe.
Exactly. But the woman, you can't. You have to come up correct. And so your makeup as well, because you also want to look the part, and they don't come cheap. So when you calculate all of that as well, you have to factor that in because it's a business. It's just like you're selling something, but it's just that we don't value all the creative arts generally. We are now just coming to appreciating it. People just think it's just for you to hold the mic and talk,
Is it
but
not
no,
just?
it's not just. It's not just. You have to factor in fuel. If you're driving, you have to fuel your car. If you're not driving, you have to take Uber because you cannot go there on a bike.
On Okada. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You can't go there on a
Exactly.
bike. So, I mean, it just ruins your reputation. This is not even a matter of trying to be who you are not. It's about also reflecting a kind of branding, for the organization. There are popular, even comedians, big comedians now who are now big, who said they had to even borrow their friends' cars to appear at events because they don't want to go there with, a bike or public
Yeah,
transportation.
packaging matters. Branding
Exactly.
matters.
It
Yeah.
matters. So all those things you have to factor it in when you are pricing, when you are, doing your price. So I don't think there is any one straight jacket answer to it. Everybody has what works for them, depending on the level that you are and the stakeholder that you are interacting with.
Wow. This was a class. This was a class that we should be paying for. And we're going to have that conversation about maybe creating a small content to package. It can be a short content, training content, whereby we will host it. We will host your course on our website, on the DBC
Mm.
Visibility Media website. Knowledge is the new goal, so I want you to seriously think about that. And if you're watching this, we are looking forward to collaborating with Titi Kush to do a content, a course content in effective, impactful, excellent hosting that is strategic and gets you noticed, in places, in organization, in groups you never imagine. We are looking forward to that. And I think you should look out for that, and we'll tell you when that does happen. On a final note, what will be your parting shots for colleagues for colleagues in the industry or anyone watching us?
My parting shot will be, never be the same person you were the last time. And what I mean is that keep growing. It's something that I personally live by in everything that I do. I always try to grow. I always try to seek knowledge. I always try to grow. We are living in an environment where people just want to take and they will just want to take, but it's important that what you're taking in is making you grow. So what you're investing in is something that would improve on the person you used to be yesterday, or the person you used to be last year, or the person you used to be 2 years ago. So
Yes.
be a better version. I always say that I don't know about being yourself all the time, because yourself needs, constant improvement. What you think is good today might just be outdated tomorrow. So you need to keep improving yourself, doing whatever it takes, legitimately, to improve yourself. Improving yourself by watching others who are already there, who are already at the place where you want to be. Mentorship, it can be far away. It doesn't have to be you writing a letter to someone and say, I want you to mentor me and all of that. No, it can just be you offering something. I've been at an event before, and that really touched me, where someone just chatted me up and said, if you need videos, I can help you make them. And I felt like this is
Nice.
a way of shooting your shot. If you want somebody to mentor you,
Yes.
you need to
Yes.
also offer, support to
Some
them.
value.
So yes, so it's not like you writing a letter to say, I want you to mentor me. No, mentorship can start in unofficial manners. And I think that it's important to also do that if you want to improve yourself. And I also say, be humble. I have also learned this as well. Be humble and be teachable. Be someone that people can talk to. People can, even now, people still chat. Some people still tell me that, I think you can do this better. I think you can. And I think it's because they find me teachable. They find me as someone that they can talk to. Because some
Yeah.
people, even if they are going, even if they are derailing, you can't say anything because you don't find them teachable enough. So I think it's important to also be teachable. So that would be my parting shot. Always be a better version of yourself. Stay humble and teachable.
Thank you so, so much, Titi. This has been such an enriching time. I mean, I didn't know that event hosting is a very serious business.
It is.
I know I've seen it, but what really goes into it. If you're going to be hosting excellent, top-notch events, then you have to be willing to put in the work. I heard you saying you research the host, that is the convener of the event, you research the organization. I've heard you talk about even having to be interviewed to get an
Yes.
event hosting role. And I've heard you talk about, having a rate card like we have in TV, radio, print, having a rate card. And I've also heard you talk about, not being flexible and not being rigid, learn to, grow along the line. And I love the fact that you also talked about watching videos, being mentored by others, just about going the extra mile. So now with what you've said, I see the difference between those that are hosting, A-list events, and those that are hosting what we call lagbo lagbo in Yoruba, that
Yeah.
is just anyhow kind of event. Because those that are hosting A-list events, they have gone to do a top-notch work. They have been trained, they've been certified, they keep learning, they keep evolving, they invest in their looks, they invest in their brand. It's a whole lot. And I want to thank you so much for giving of yourself. I mean, you didn't have to share all of it, but you gave. I saw you pouring it out to anyone watching, and that is what this show is all about. Media Talks, pouring it out to anyone who is who dares to sit and watch, who finds time to watch, and just glean a whole lot away. I'm taking a whole lot away from this. I want to thank you. I celebrate you. I wish you amazing, amazing, amazing things in your journey. And like I always say, beyond the sky is your limit.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for doing this. You are an inspiration as well. I must say that through
Thank
and through,
you.
you're always up to something, and you challenge people like me, to continue to strive for greatness. So thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for watching Media Talk series with me, Adebisi Adetunji. This week, you've been listening to Titi Kushimo. We call her Titi Kush. She is an event host. She has poured so much into this episode, sharing her knowledge, sharing her expertise, sharing what it is, what it takes to be an excellent event host. Please, when next you have an event, Titi Kush is the person that you should reach out to. I'm going to be sharing her details in the bio of this video, in the about of this video, so you can reach out to her. Should you have an event that Titi Kush can host for you? And I tell you, she does a great job of hosting events. She hosted my book launch event, and I've been following her event hosting journey. It's been excellent, performance. So I'm sure you'll find her just the right fit for your event. Thank you again, Titi, for coming. Catch you again on another episode of the show, Media Talks series. Bye for now.